Welcome to Mindshift. Shout out to Julia, JLC. Julia Loves
Welcome to
Christ.
Mindshift. I'm Brandon. Today is another Sunday episode, and
This is a reaction
it is
video. I
one
haven't seen
that
this.
I
She
am
sent me
really
this video.
eager
Here we
to get.
go. This guy looks like an ex-Christian. I did see one of his other videos, but I wanted to wait to watch this to react to it. I don't know if I'm going to do the whole video, but I might skip ahead as
Out
well.
there. And I know I say that often, but the reason that I'm so excited about this particular topic is because I think it is one of the core arguments against the goodness or the reality of the Christian God concept. Now, that's something else I've said.
Yeah, so first thing we want to do is probably, I don't know. I was going to say stop watching this guy, but there's some value in studying the devil, but don't let your mind be deluded by this. I guess certain people can stop watching them. Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. Proverbs 30, verse 20, he who walks with the wise will become wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. 1 Corinthians 15:33, bad company corrupts good morals. Yeah, there's lots of verses like that. Proverbs 18:24 comes to mind as well. Unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. Just don't. 1 Corinthians 10:20. Do not have fellowship with the devils. But we do have Ephesians 5:11. Do not have fellowship with the darkness, rather expose it. So if you're watching it to expose it, that's obviously fine.
So what I think I need to do is a tier list of sorts of all of the arguments against God.
But yeah, if you're truth seeking, I wouldn't go to this guy. The essence of idolatry is the entertainment of thoughts about God that are unworthy of Him. And we already have that from this guy.
Some that are in the middle, and then a very top tier. This would be top tier. I've covered other top tier arguments recently. We've talked a lot about the problem of suffering, divine hiddenness. We just covered the exclusivity of God as a problem. But today I want to talk about the ability for God's creation to be deceived. This very concept, this very allowance absolutely obliterates the idea of free will, the idea of a fair and just God, of God's punishments being correct, and of Him being a good father. So to make this case, I'm going to just slap you in the face with Bible verse after Bible verse after Bible verse. This is one of my favorite ways to make an argument, to make a case against Christianity, is just to use the Bible. So I've made a playlist of all the videos where I've done this. This will be video 15. It's called...
So I made up a doctrine, I want to say 5 weeks ago now. Between 3 and 6 weeks, I'll say. Doctrine of infinite depth. As you grow in righteousness and holiness, the Bible begins to change, the meanings change, and possibly the most that makes a change would be knowledge. You do have the original Hebrew, Koine Greek, and context can all change the meaning of everything that's in
I'm
there.
excited to do that yet again today, and if you want to see more at the end of the video.
And this guy, he's going to be unrighteous and unholy, probably lacking a little bit of knowledge as well, so it's going to hurt what the Bible says, which is why I brought out that doctrine of man
list.
that
of course,
I made up.
Doctrine of depth in the description as well. So let's get into it. I want to break down these verses into a few different categories. Let's start with the initial setup. We're going to read Genesis 3:3-6. Now, the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, or you will die." "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food, pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Okay, so I want to talk about this for so long, but this is just like the verse to kick things off on a video about God allowing us to be deceived. So let's just try to cover this very quickly.
So the first thing I want to say is I do have a quarter ounce of stock in Swedenborg. Swedenborg thinks the entire Bible is hyper figurative. So he doesn't even think there was a literal. He thinks there's quadruple meanings for every word that was just spoken right there. But I don't go that far. That's way.
Christian.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But he's doing like methamphetamine off the scriptures. But it is interesting if you want to look into him. Emanuel Swedenborg, 1770s. He was a rich guy. He went to heaven. There was 3 heavens, 10,000 hells. The hells are merciful and good, and alpha males go to hell, beta males go to heaven. It's kind of interesting. It's about selfishness and selflessness. It's an interesting religion there. It's almost the same as Mormonism, but it's kind of better in some ways, maybe, and worse in some ways. I don't know. It's very strange, but But yeah, this guy's probably gonna have some
The reason
outtake. We're
Christians
gonna
think that
see
is
here,
because
though.
the New Testament ties Satan back to this. In fact, I have two verses just so we can make our case here. 2 Corinthians 11, 2 through 3. I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy. I promised you to one husband, to Christ, so that I might present you as a pure virgin to him. This is so gross. But I'm afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your minds may somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. And then also in Revelation 12, 9, the great dragon, the ancient serpent, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, was thrown down to the earth. So
Yeah. So one time I was reading I saw there was a Book of Mormon in my room, and I prayed and asked God if it was true, and I prayed over it, and I was shaking, I was trembling, and then I opened to the back of the book, I zoomed in and read one word, and it was dragon. So, yeah, that's one of my many revelations on the Mormons and the
serpent.
LDS and the Book of Mormon. I have two revelations that the Book of Mormon is demonic, and that was one of them. That's just unlucky for them, because if you read the verse in context, it's condemning the dragon.
Obviously,
Maybe you could say that you could interpret it like there's good dragons and bad dragons, but
kind of
maybe it's a good dragon,
back.
It's the great dragon. It's generally generally referencing
So
the
that's
Satan.
why people think that. And fine, in terms of how the myth goes, you can really believe whatever you want because none of it's true. I'm building a case. You need to stick with me here. This is just the beginning to help us understand that this can happen, that humans who otherwise did not know better can be led to believe something that is incorrect and harmful to them, that is against supposedly the will of God, that none should be lost, that none should perish. After all,
Yeah, so God's a risk taker, and if you want to see how much so and so loves you, there are so many creatures in heaven that are obsessed with God, and they're just like, yeah, God, you're the best, man. Like, trust me, bro. And God's just like, yeah, but compared to what? And it's like, you've never been tested in your life. You've been worshiping me the last 2 million years straight. We'll see. We'll see if you really love me. Here's a snake, Listen, go talk to that snake for 15 minutes and then see if you break my commandment or if you want to worship me again. And, it's one of those things where if he goes for the snake, then yeah, everyone would have been better off had we didn't know. We would have been better off not knowing. And that's true. But if he denies the snake, whoa, and then he goes for Christ. Wow, maybe, okay, wow, you do love me. There is true love that can be unlocked by passing tests. If it's just, let's just say me and a girl named Christy, and she's 25, she's beautiful, but she's the only woman on earth, right? So it's just me and Christy, and yeah, I love you, we love each other and stuff. But do you really love her? It's like, well, yeah, of course. Yeah, but do you love her? How much do you love her? Well, I don't know. A lot. She's the best. She's number one in the world, If God were to create, 30 or 40 other girls, and, some of them are better than Christy in this way or that way or the other. This one has a good personality. This one more beautiful. This one is better listener. This one's more wise, whatever. And I talked to all of them, and then, yeah, I go with Christy after that, after all of that. Wow, you must really love Christy. Yes, I do, So you have to know it by comparing it to other things. God gives us families, Matthew 10:37, and he expects us to love him more than the family. And that's one of the reasons why I believe in baby polytheism, is because God he's competitive, he wants to win, and when he makes his competition, easy to beat, then it doesn't say much when you beat him. But if God creates these massive, ginormous demigods, and then you choose God over the demigods, then God is like, whoa, and it's a real victory, People run triathletes, or even just a marathon. When you finish running that marathon, wow, you feel accomplished. But do you feel accomplished running 1 mile? Probably not. Maybe, but probably not. So, video games. You could beat the video game on easy, or you could beat it on medium, or you could beat it on hard. The hard mode, you might not even beat it, but you could. If you do beat it, more accomplished. So here, my theory with the snake is God is creating this very powerful, deceptive snake, because Adam and Eve are very hyper intelligent, divine type of beings. I know the modern Christian thought is they came from the dust and they're not that big of a deal, but if you look at like LDS Mormons, they think that they are divine, quasi reorganized intelligences, and you know, for them to be deceived, they're going to need some competition. There was a snake, but yeah. Anyways, God makes the snake, and we can genuinely win or we can genuinely lose. And I think we lost. And this guy is saying, well, because we lost, God's a bad guy. You know, he's competitive. He should stop being competitive, and he should have different character attributes. He should be a little wuss. And he should be like Floyd Mayweather and be undefeated and only fight weaker opponents, significantly weaker opponents, and beat them all up. And that's how I am in this life. So that's how God should be. And it's just, let's just play on easy mode, you know? Let's just play on easy, maybe medium. One game on medium and a bunch of games on easy, and things are going to work out better, you know? Lower highs, but higher lows. That's what he's saying. And I disagree, and of course God disagrees, and let's do high risk, high reward, and it's a better payoff. It's better to play hard.
Wasn't his original goal perfection, no sin, no evil, etc.? This should tell you how man-made and mythological it is that the second something can go wrong, it did. But anyways, this is just to show the setup. Let's get into some of the warnings, then we're going to get into some examples, then we're going to get into some of the worst versions of these verses, and then we're going to look at some of the consequences. Oh, and by the way, I'm reminded as I'm looking in the viewfinder that I have my new poster up. The Room, guys, is coming together. I need maybe one more week, and then I'm going to do a studio tour. This is the myth of Sisyphus. It is one of my favorite myths from Greek mythology, and I think that depiction is just gorgeous. Let's get to some of the warnings. In John 8:44, Jesus refers to the devil as the liar.
This might be a long video. If somebody calls me,
in 1 Peter 5:8, be alert.
I'm not going to put on
and
do not
sober of mind, because the devil prowls like a roaring lion looking for something to devour.
Right.
In 2 Timothy 3:13,
we have to slay those dragons and we have to slay those lions. It's fun, and the payoff's big.
From bad
True
towards
love.
deceiving and being
Experiment
deceived.
here.
I wanted to point out this verse because it's not just the devil that can deceive us. It's
You have to punch the deceiver in the face. You have to punch the devil in the face, you know?
people, it's false
Feels
prophets,
good, man.
it's evil people. I also love when the Bible does these huge category claims. Evil people. What, is someone just born evil? Well, yeah, the Bible would say that they definitely are. Then everyone is evil. But what they're meaning here is that there's a secondary category, that there are some people who are so bad, that are so wicked, they're simply an evil person. It's such an obvious misunderstanding of human nature, of the fact that all of us are capable of doing things that are beneficial, more beneficial, less beneficial, harmful, etc. It's really stupid to just classify people as good or bad. But I digress. Second.
Yeah, so good or bad, it really depends on who you compare it to. Everyone's infinitely wicked relative to Jesus Christ and God. Even the angels who have never sinned, they still have sins of omission, not sins of commission, but sins of omission, and they're infinitely wicked relative to God. Humans are all good compared to the devil, but we're all wicked compared to the angels. Matthew 11:11, out of any man born of woman, none is greater than John the Baptist. Even he is weak compared to the weakest angel who's in heaven. Noah is a great example of someone who is very righteous compared to all the other people. And, you know, he was spared. Okay. Everyone was destroyed by the flood, except for him. So there's relative righteousness. You know, everyone on earth, including Noah, is infinitely wicked relative to Christ. They're wicked compared to the angels. But there's a difference between Noah and everyone else.
14.
And that's where relative righteousness comes in. There is some truth to like Romans 3:10, no one's righteous, no, not one. There's some truth to that. But there's also truth to Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. Noah was righteous. So you have to put in, that's why I said the context is very important.
Workers masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light.
And there's actually a theory here that the Apostle Paul himself is masquerading as an angel of light as he's writing this. So this whole world is filled with evil and all that stuff.
Light. So here
Gotta watch out for that.
we have it all laid out. We've got false apostles, we have just false people, we have people that
No, I think Paul's
deceive,
fine.
and we have Satan, because all of these evil people are taking their cue from Satan, who is capable of dressing up as an angel of light. If you're a mere mortal, us lowly creatures from the dirt, and an angel shows up to you, an angel of light, no darkness, Satan
Right.
here is obviously able to completely encapsulate a good form that can trick.
Sounds like Joseph Smith.
How is that mere mortal
Just kidding.
supposed to withstand that? How is that fair? It's like a toddler going up against an MMA fighter. There's zero chance.
Yeah, so it's impossible to beat the devil in your own strength. But if no one's around, no one's looking, you get on your hands and knees and you pray to God, then you can beat up the devil. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
And that now
Heads up, Eric. 4 days left to get
do
lit.
Delta justice. It's insane what a separation it would be between us, a human, and if this Satan character really existed, someone that used to be in the presence of God for eons, right? This essentially immortal being.
Yeah, and this guy's like, yeah, he's so messed up, he's so wicked, this life is so messed up. Meanwhile, this guy's atheist, he's wicked, he's bald, and he's married. God gave him a wife,
We must be compared to him. So
This is the God that he
if
doesn't
he
like,
shapeshifts into an angel of light and appears to someone, they're probably going to believe what he says. That sounds like God's problem, not the person's problem. But again, we'll talk about that more
Wow.
when we get to the
Yeah, so God is not going to just let a pseudo shaman, folklore, time traveling wizard, magician, angel appear to someone just out of nowhere. God's going to say, yeah, I don't know about all that. The devil is on a very tight leash, and you have to open yourself up to demons through sin. So sin leads to sin, which leads to sin, which leads to sin, which leads to big sin, and then you could be deceived. So with Joseph Smith, he was into folklore, and he was into all that demonic witchcraft, treasure hunting. Now, to be fair to God and him, everyone around there at that time was wicked. Everyone, everywhere. That's just how it is back when you go back in time. Everyone's wicked, pretty much. But he opened himself up to the demonic realm, and that's why he was able to see those false angels and those false visions. Or he just repented and he's telling the truth. But God will allow. So there's two things. One, if you're very righteous, very holy, very close to God, God may want to test you, and he may allow you, like Job, for example, where you beat him up, and there's great things coming at the end of that. Very hard mode, right? Like I was talking about earlier. God may allow the devil to throw you 101 mile an hour fastball at the top of the zone, and he's going to hope that you hit the home run. And he's going to be with you every step of the way. But so that can't happen. Someone like me, I can get a false angel if God wants to test me. He could do that. But generally, I would say it's the opposite. People that are flirting with Ouija boards and witchcraft, and you go to the psychic, and you do tarot cards, and you do astrology. Then you could open yourself up. And that is a lot of free will there. So yeah, there's two ways. If you're the very righteous and the very wicked, they can get these experiences. I would say, but he's blaming God. But there's a lot of stuff going on.
Matthew 24:24. False Christs and false prophets will arise and perform.
I have this verse memorized. I actually whipped this out on a Morbid Missionary one time, and the missionary is like, "Oh my gosh!" And then the other guy's like, "Yes, Eric, yeah."
Great signs and wonders to lead people astray.
Because I said this one is talking about you,
even the elect. So there's a lot.
Yeah, if it were possible, even
we have two categories of people. We have the elect, the people that God has predestined to be saved, and yet possibly.
Yeah, and predestined here is not 16th century Augustinian predestinationism. That
I
is a
like
lie from the straight
that
from the pits of hell. It's very
it's not
idolatrous. It's very stupid as
like
well. Very lame. Predestined. If I'm going to New York next week, I'm predestined to go there. Does that mean I'm going to get there? 100% chance? No. Why? Because the plane could fall down. I could change
like
my mind. Same thing with God. I hold to dynamic omniscience, which is God's active and complete knowledge based in a temporally present perception of reality, accounting for the various epistemic categories of knowledge in light of its cognate expressions.
sure,
So that's what I hold to.
possibly even the
That's just a very
elect
small piece of
can be
God's
taken
mind.
away
So
from God. Wow, maybe God isn't all powerful, and yet possibly, I like that it's not like quite sure. Possibly even the elect can be taken away from
yeah,
God. Wow.
yeah, it depends on their free will. I'm probably gonna hit the 101-mile-an-hour fastball over the fence. The Lord did test me with a gun to my head. I hit a home run there, but not every like for example, Elisha is pretty hilarious in the Bible. He's mocking all these pagans. He's like, yeah, let's see who can call down more fire from heaven. You guys go first. They start cutting their wrist for 22 hours straight or something, and nothing happens, and they couldn't even get any smoke going. The demons that they were worshiping just fell flat, and Elijah's mocking them, and then he whips out a fireplace, and he puts a bunch of sticks in there. He laces the sticks with water. He starts pouring buckets of water, and then he calls down fire from heaven, the God of Israel, a pure stream of fire, and lights the whole place on fire. And he's laughing, and as the fire is coming down, he's trying to put it out. He's, oh, I can't even put it out. God's so big. My God's so huge. And then they're like, the pagans are like, okay, you win. And then he takes a sword and he chops off all their heads. This is a true story in the Bible. This Old Testament's very, very strange. But, he chops off all their heads, And then, and then like, I want to say like 4 days later, he's like running away from the authorities and the government. And he's just like, they're after me. And he's like all scared. And now he's like a wimp, And this is the guy that just called down fire from heaven. So it's kind of funny, people.
Maybe God
That's a story in
isn't all
the Bible.
powerful here. Didn't he elect for these people? And yet
Sorry, let's go back a
possibly,
second.
I like that it's not like quite sure. Possibly even the elect can be taken away from God. Wow, maybe God isn't all powerful here. Didn't he elect for these people to be saved? How contradictory is it that possibly Satan could deceive?
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest lies in Christianity and non-Christianity, that God is quote unquote all powerful. I believe that God's more artistic than he is powerful. It makes sense to want a God that's all powerful, but again, the God that I worship is not Floyd Mayweather 50-0. I'm gonna fight a bunch of stick figures that I created that are, you know, 3 feet tall, and then I'm gonna beat them all up. No, that's not what God's doing. He wants a challenge. He wants to lose. You know, God creates video games that takes him years, decades, millenniums to beat that video game, because he puts so many limitations on the character in the game, and then he goes out there and he loses over and over and over again, and then when he finally wins, he cries. And I'm down here watching him play this video game for millions of years, and by the time he's done with it, it makes him slightly more worthy of worship than before he played. Mormons believe this. Christians should believe it. They're not against believing it. But this whole idea that he's quote unquote all powerful, and that he's unable to create a rock so heavy that he himself cannot pick up, because then he couldn't do everything. And or I don't know. The God in the Bible, he told us he's not going to flood the earth, and then he put out the rainbow. So he obviously can't flood the earth. And actually, I was talking about this before the video came on. You want to take a look at my conversation with ChatGPT? Because look, I was just talking to ChatGPT about this. I said, Bible verses on things God cannot do. What a coincidence, you guys. God cannot lie. He can create things that can lie. But he himself, he's so above that. Maybe he lied in the past and he's done with it. And then he gaslighted himself to make himself believe that he's never lied before. But he doesn't like this. Take a look. And the hope of eternal life, which God that cannot lie promised before the world. Well, there you go. The God of Islam can lie. Quran 3:54. I'm just kidding. That's out of context. I don't want to misrepresent their beliefs, even though they are very wicked, in my opinion. God cannot change. He is immutable. Okay, well, he can't change. There is a sense in which he cannot change. Okay. So he's not all powerful there either. He can't sin. Oh, I guess he's not powerful there either. God cannot be tempted. He can't sin. He cannot deny himself. There's another thing he can't do. He cannot grow weary or faint. Okay, whatever. God cannot tolerate injustice or wickedness. Okay, and he cannot flood the earth. Genesis 9:11. So, no, a lot of people fetishize like I said, the Augustinian makeup of God. When you're all, quote unquote all powerful, it does ironically limit you as a being, and you have to take away the quote unquote all what you think the quote unquote all powerful thing is. You got to take that away, otherwise you're limiting God. Like I said at the start of the video, the essence of intellectual idolatry is the entertainment of thoughts about God that are unworthy of Him, and I think making Him quote unquote all powerful is a mistake.
Them to a point where they
He's better than this.
And then the rest of us are just screwed. If we weren't in God's will to be saved, if we weren't in his perfect plan to receive salvation,
yeah. This is another lie straight from the pits of hell. It's called Calvinism, predestinationism. Everyone's predestined to heaven. Sometimes it takes an eternity to get there. God has given us some hard mode, very hard mode, free will. And if we choose to love him with that, he gets real, genuine glory that he doesn't get from all those puppets in heaven, which I believe there are puppets in heaven, who have an asymmetric net positive experience. And actually, one of the main theories for humans, this goes to LDS, is the pre-existence and also Christian philosophy. And there are a lot of NDs that say this. Most NDs, actually. They'll say, in heaven, we were killing it. We're all getting A+. Too easy. And then we signed up to come here as humans. And when you sign up, there's a high risk, high reward. Everyone in heaven's super cocky. But yeah, God does one of those soul contract things. He gives us free will. And then we become gods of our own agency, which is what the Mormons believe and what a lot of the C.S. Lewis style Christian philosophers believe as well. So we have the true free will, and then that's when God starts to salivate over our hearts and our love, because it's so much more real than those little animals in heaven who have never been tested, who never, we don't know. Their hearts are so artificial and shallow, because here on earth, I mean, there's people who don't even think God exists. That's how freaking blind we are here. We don't, a lot of us on earth, we don't interact with God the way we interact with other humans. The other humans, you talk to them, they talk back. A lot of Christians, they need to ask for a sign. It could take for a week, dreams or something. A lot of superficial relationships with the Lord here on earth. And God is looking for the deep relationship, and you can't really get it without creating a world like this or harder. Maybe you could create a easier world, which would still be better than being born in heaven. You could create like an earth just a little bit easier. And maybe there are beings signing up for those easier planets. There's some other NDEs like that too. I actually heard an NDE where they said there's like many millions of worlds, and this is like the 7th hardest one. There's only 6 worlds harder than this, and everyone thinks we're weird for coming to this world because it's like too hard. It's like, why would you ever do that? It's like, why would you ever sign up for that one? Freaks. You guys are freaks, But because there is a lot of crap in this world, especially if you live outside of America, it's probably even harder.
Coaching against these deceptive practices. And then the biggest part that I want to get to with this is, how are they able to deceive so well? It's because they have power. They will do great signs and wonders. Yeah. In fact, there's another verse, and then I'm going to show you why this is so problematic and contradictory.
Yeah, and I talked about this earlier. God is obsessed with hard mode. If we can overcome these powerful deceivers with Christ, and we can crowd to Christ, it's a lot more valuable than if we beat a quote unquote deceiver who doesn't even know English. It's like, how am I going to be deceived by someone who's really stupid?
Thessalonians
It doesn't even make sense.
2.
It's like, wow, you overcame that snake who didn't even say
9
anything.
through 10.
Wow, that's impressive.
Coming of the
No,
lawless
it's not.
one will be accompanied by all kinds of counterfeit miracles, signs, and wonders,
Exactly.
and every wicked deception directed
Yeah, like Mormons, Latter-day Saints, they have really good leaders in their church, and they idolize those leaders, and
against those who
they need to
perishing. Okay,
love God more.
let's lay the
It
ground.
could be idolatry.
Work.
It's very, very idolatrous
Then
when they love
I'm going to read
God's. But yeah,
With few verses.
God's competing with
about-
with everything in this earth. There's lots of cool things on earth, you know.
How-
But yeah, God, He wants you to choose Him, even if it hurts, even if it means you're going to lose pleasure, you're going to lose fame, you're going to lose status, your name's going to be hindered, you're going to be hated by the world. He wants you to pick up your cross, follow Him, to, not be deceived, to think about Him, even when He's basically quasi invisible. He and then to choose Him anyway. Do you see the irony here? Look at this. Look, I can't stop looking at this guy back here. Look at how strong he is, all these muscles. He works out. You know? He's on hard mode back there. This guy likes this guy back here. If I'm gonna have a God worthy of worship, he's gonna have to do a lot of push-ups and sit-ups, get a lot of muscles, and yeah, and God's saying the same thing. If you like, everyone wants to be. You remember MySpace? How they had top 8, and I don't know if they got rid of. I don't think they ever got rid of it. But people would freaking lose friends over that. They said, "Oh, I'm your number 4. Oh, I have you as my number 1, and you're my number 4." You know, and then people get in fights. Like the guy would have his girlfriend number 7, you know, or his girlfriend number 5, you know. And I remember my stepsister Nicole used to roll her eyes at that. How do you have your girlfriend number 5? And then you have your, like, it was the bros before hoes mindset. But yeah, if you want to get in God's top 8, do you think being created as a purple giraffe in the terrestrial kingdom is going to get you there? And you just walk around, you eat, you eat fruits off a tree for 6 years, you know? These purple, these giant purple plums. And you're just like, oh, that tastes good, huh? Oh, that tastes really good. And then you go up to God, you have a conversation with Him. God's like, I love you so much, you know? Oh, I love you too. And then the giraffe's like, well, do you love me the most, you know? And God's like, well, no. You know, I have like billions of creatures better than you. And He's like, what? And He goes, well, yeah, but why would I love it? You're a purple giraffe in terrestrial kingdom. And then the giraffe starts freaking out, and he has this desire to move up. And God starts laughing. He's like, you really want to do that? Well, here's these contracts, and let's just say God takes a boxing glove. This giraffe's never felt pain in his life. He's only been alive for about 25 minutes. He was created 25 minutes ago. You know, out of some very special materials, by the way. But God's like, okay, this is going to be the first time you ever felt pain. It's only going to last for 3 seconds. Trust me, okay? And you'll still love me? And he says, okay. And he punches them in the face. And he says, what the heck was that? I didn't like that. Oh, you didn't like that. Well, you know how I said, I love you. Well, do you still trust me? Do you still love me? And then he takes another bite of the purple plum. Yeah. Okay, you do. Wow. Well, you just ranked up. You're still outside the top 1 billion, but I love you more. That's interesting, huh? And he says, now, I want you to sign this contract and go to this earth where you're going to get punched in the face 10 times a day for 75 years. And then the purple giraffe's like, oh, I'm out. I'm good. And God's like, oh, but I thought you wanted to be in my top 8. He's like, yeah, I do. Okay, well then sign the contract. And the giraffe's like, no, no. God's like, oh, so you don't love me that much. You don't want to be in my top 8. You don't want, like, trust me, there's going to be learning experiences on this earth. You could be an image bearer of God. Those are my favorite ones. You know? And he's like, I'll think about it. And then just 3 weeks go on. He's just feasting on the purple plums. And then he says he gets bored of it. He gets sick of it. He says, you know what? I do want to go for that top 8. You know, and he starts training, gets punched in the face maybe 3 or 4 times a day, and he's training. His hands start shaking. He signs the contract. That's right. And that's who this guy is right here. You see him? Beautiful. He used to be a purple giraffe in the terrestrial kingdom. He used to feast on all those plums. That's why he's so fat, you know. And now he's here, and now he's veiled, and he's down the existence of God. But one day he could be in God's top 8. He already signed the contract. You know, when this life's done, unless he goes full on out Judas, which he might be. I mean, this guy is creating videos about how bad God is. You might have been better off never signing that contract, Purple Giraffe. You know, that's what it says about Judas. It would have been better off that he had never been born. That's how bad you could flunk this life because you bring your free will with you, and okay, now when you're done, you're a black giraffe, and you're not even in the top 100 trillion. Your win-loss record is 0 wins, 1 loss. You would have been better off with 0 wins, 0 losses. Plus, you got punched in the face for 75 years. So it can be risky, but hey, you sign the contract. Not everyone is Judas. You have John the Baptist. You have Noah. And it can be a good thing.
This
So, yeah.
is one of the biggest
let's
problems.
go a little bit more, and then I'll
I think in the entire
probably end the
Bible,
video. Who knows?
we have mortals, humans, who can already be deceived just by like another person with a bad attitude. But then you're going to add false apostles,
Yeah.
false.
Imagine signing up for hard mode, and then like you go to the dojo, you pick up Bulbasaur, and you could have picked Squirtle, really, but you take Bulbasaur, and then you walk into the grass, and then do, and then there's this like fire creature, and he's like and then he kills you, and then you wake up in the hospital, and then you blame the guy who created Pokemon. It's like, come on, bro. All you had to do is pick Squirtle. But no, you just heal up, and then you don't go in that grass next time.
Characters, false
Wicked.
prophets, and then the devil and his demons. And all of these
Oh, you poor baby. There's false prophets and demons.
able to
Oh, you
do
poor baby.
miraculous things, other signs and wonders and miracles, essentially, which God would have had to allow. God imbued Satan with his
Oh, God allowed it.
powers, and then allowed him to have those magical powers when he fell to earth, if that is the part of the mythology you believe happened.
He's allowing magical powers. Yeah, well, have you ever thought about the devil? You know, what if the devil wants to have fun?
Then
You gonna take away the devil's fun
Give
too? The devil is one of those creatures that God loves. See, you forget that. God loves the devil. The devil wanted to be God, so he fought God and lost. God loved the devil so much, Lucifer, that he gave him his own planet. And now the devil is, according to 2 Corinthians 4:4, the god of this world. And this is God's biggest enemy, is the devil. You can imagine how much he loves you, if that's how much he loves the devil. Gives him magical powers, he loves the humans so much that he created better beings called angels to serve the humans. That's pretty hilarious too. We're going to make more powerful creatures, hyper-moral, hyper-powerful creatures to serve the weaker ones that are better. So that some of them can malfunction and serve the devil who God loves. That's how powerful agape love is. Remember, there's 5 categories of love in the Greek, and there's way more. There's more flavors of love than there are colors. But epithumia is the love of the flesh. Animal love, it would be sex, basically, epithumia. Eros is the better version of sex, is love of attraction and sexy time. Storge, love of family. Filio, which is my personal favorite, love of friendship, which is what you need to get into the Holy of Holies with God. But the most powerful love by far is agape, and that is the love of unconditional intensity, basically. And that comes from God and goes to every creature everywhere, including the devil. And the devil, begs God to get rid of it, and he's saying, God, can you get that off me? I don't like it, But he does like it. We all love it. Matthew 5:45, it says it rains on the just and the unjust. Acts 17:25, life and breath and everything else comes from God. Breath is an unconditional gift. Rain, unconditional love. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave Jesus for everyone. And like I said with the purple giraffe, you have to farm up and do quote-unquote works to get the filial love, because God's not friends with everyone. That's clear in 1 John. It's clear throughout the Bible. God has friends and enemies, but Matthew 5:44, God told us to love who? Your enemies. So if God tells us to love our enemies, does God love his enemies? Yes. Does God love the demons? Yes. Does God love the Satan? Yes. In an agape sense, absolutely. In a filio sense, no. He doesn't love God, the devil as a friend. Nor should we. If you're friends with the devil, it's going to be a little bit good, and it's going to be very, 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 very bad. If you're friends with God, it'll be a little bit bad, and it'll be very, 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 very good. The badness comes from, if you're dirty, if you're filthy, you have to take a shower. You have to take a bath. And for whatever reason, little kids, they don't like taking a bath. They don't take a shower. They don't like getting scrubbed. Getting your mouth washed out with soap, that doesn't feel good in the moment. But long run, it does. Hebrews 12:6-8, whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. The discipline of God, well, there's actually, I believe, 2 different disciplines. There is natural discipline, which is like karma, can I swear? Karma's a bitch. Karma's a bitch. I tried to go the whole year without swearing, but January 20th, I accidentally said a swear word, so... But I do want to cut back on it a little bit. But karma's a bitch. That's not really that bad, but it is kind of bad, I guess. But karma's a female dog, and that's called natural discipline. I call it natural discipline. Hebrews 12:6, the reason why I came up with that is because it is agape in the Greek, for whom the Lord loveth. But in Revelation 3:19, it says, as many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. That is filial. So I believe there is a agape discipline and there's a filio discipline. And the filio discipline you sign up for example, if you get baptized publicly, especially if you take on the name of Christ, if you pray and ask for it, for example, and if you want more Christ, Proverbs 8:17, I love those who love me, those who seek me earnestly shall find me. James 4:8, draw near to God, he will draw near to you. So God is going to give you discipline whether you like it or not, but he will also give you discipline if you like it. So if you want more, then you can get the filio discipline.
Dominion over the world. Not only
I forgot.
Since he's the father of lies, and roam about like a lion looking for its next prey, but also the ability to shapeshift and look like an angel, and the ability to get into our very hearts.
Yeah, so the devil, as you can see, is the most hated creature that God has, and he's having a lot of fun. Is he burning in hell as well? Yes. Is he going to be thrown into like a fire? Yes. Can I trust God to put him in eternal conscious torment, fire, brimstone, infinite, million, cajillion degrees forever? like he promises? Can I trust him with that? The answer is no, by the way. Because God's too good. He's too loving. He's too awesome. The forever, eternal, conscious torment, hell that is spoken about, it's more like Sandlot, where he says forever, forever, forever. This world is pretty crazy and wicked. We have what's called international war laws. I don't know how we pulled this off in America, but if you don't feed and water your prisoners, America's going to come after you. And we're going to beat the crap out of you. You better feed and water your prisoners and the people in jail. You have to give them food and water. Let's say you're in, I want to say, I don't know. Let's just say you're in Sweden or something. There's the world, there's the UN. And they said, okay, we'll give you this if you give us this and, this and this. And, you guys could be the world reserve currency, but we have to get this, And we said, okay, well, how about this? You guys cannot torture people. Is that fair? Okay. So yeah, we have that here in this life. We have caps on how much you can hurt people. And that's what it is for the next life. Worst case scenario, Old Testament, it says eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But Jesus, it was almost like God improved over time. And justice back in the day used to be, you punch him in the face, okay, now he gets to punch you in the face. And that makes sense, I think, to God and stuff. But now it's like, Matthew 5:45, it's been said in the past, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but I tell you this, pray for those who persecute you and bless those who curse you. You don't think God does that? He does. This whole idea that this fat guy on screen who doesn't know God very well is going to try to tell us that God's a bad guy somehow because he loves the devil. Everything that the devil does to us, he tries to hurt us and stuff like that. It helps us in the long run. We need bad guys to beat up. And this guy is probably a fan of easy mode, possibly even medium. But I'm the type of person, I like hard mode. I like going to the hospital for 6 months and overcoming paranoia, getting thrown into jail for praying in public. Even though I might not like it that much in the moment, I do like it now. Looking back on it, I could tell people, when I get to heaven and I'm playing a board game, let's just say 4,000 years from now, I could tell them a crazy story of something that I did on Earth. And, oh yeah, this and this happened, and everyone's like super impressed. Am I lying? No. That actually happened. Isn't that more savage? So now I'm worthy of worship in a generic sense, not in an ultimate sense, because most Christians actually use the word worship as capital W, capital O, capital R, capital. But there's different levels of worship. Okay, like Michael Jordan is worship worthy in the basketball world as a basketball player, right? Because he's like the best of all time. I would say Wayne Gretzky is even better. He's the best hockey player of all time by a very large margin over the second best guy. So in a hockey sense, there'd be lowercase w, right? And you can earn this glory by doing stuff, and if we, like I said, like I've been saying this whole video, there is no glory in beating an enemy that doesn't exist, beating an enemy that isn't there, and there's some glory, but there's almost no glory in beating a weak opponent. This is going to sound messed up, but if I win a bowling tournament, is that impressive? Yeah, it is. Well, what if all my opponents? What if it's the Special Olympics? And they're not. They could barely get the ball off their hand. What if they're all in wheelchairs, right? Or what if they're all 9 years and below, and I'm the only one who's 30 years old? Well, is that still impressive? I guess. I mean, if I took first place, but no. The real answer is not. The real answer is not really. But if I go to a PBA tournament and everyone is my age, they're all healthy, they all have been practicing 8 hours a day, and I beat all those guys. Okay, well that's obviously more impressive, right? So the debate is not should we have a devil. The answer should be yes, because if we don't, now we're all going to be purple drafts in the pre-existence. And if the answer is yes, how strong should we make the devil? And God is interacting with all these creatures with free will and stuff. The devil is actually more wicked than you think, but he can't execute the evil that he wants to do, because God doesn't let him do it. We should be worshiping God for that. The devil is kind of like on this permanent opposite day trip. But I was driving on the car not the other day, but like last year, I want to say, and I asked God, is the devil more wicked are the demons more wicked than the angels are good? And I looked up and there was a sign that said no, and it jumped out at me like, no. So I think good triumphs over evil. The depths of evil is more than you think, but it's not way more than you think. And the depths of good is way, 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 way more than you could more than you could ever imagine. And if there wasn't a long-term profitability plan in the evil that we experience on Earth, I can guarantee you it wouldn't exist. God could eliminate evil, but it would be like eliminating hard mode and medium mode from a video game. It's inappropriate, and we would be better off having the medium and the hard mode. So that's what I have to say about that.
The most insane and problematic thing I can think of. But it gets worse. The reason people will believe all of this is because of all those great signs, wonders, and miracles. But let's read a few of these verses. John 2:11. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So why did the disciples believe in Jesus? Because of his signs and wonders. How was the glory of God revealed here on earth? Because of Jesus' signs and wonders. So if another figure, another false Christ, is doing signs and wonders, how? Tell me how are we supposed to differentiate between the two? And don't worry, it goes on. It gets worse. John 20:30-31. Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book, but they are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. I don't need to keep spelling out this problem, right? You guys get it. Acts 2:22. Fellow Israelites, listen to this. Jesus of Nazareth was a man accredited by God to you by his miracles, wonders, and signs, which God did among you through him, as you yourselves know. It's like the exact same wording and order that Jesus does so that we can know him and thus believe in him and thus have life in him, that all of the false people and false entities and Satan himself will do. How are we supposed to know? Well, Brandon, don't you know? There's a verse for that. Yes, this one. 1 John 4:1. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. Is there a category for worst advice ever? Can we give this verse the award for that? Yep, bad on me. I set up a whole system where I told you you'd be able to know me because of my signs and wonders, but then I also gave power to my exact enemy that he could do the same powers and wonders. So you're right not to believe in every spirit, but you have to believe in mine or I'll torture you forever. So test me, and then you'll know that it's really me. And if we were testing a spirit as humans, could we not also then still continue to be deceived by the answers we are getting back? Now, Christians will tell you what this verse alludes to is you need to test by seeing if it...
Yeah, the torture for everything, I'm not really on that team. Eternal conscious torment. It's Swedenborg didn't believe in it. It would be like the purple giraffe becoming a black giraffe. It's quote unquote eternal conscious torment. It's like, oh no, I'm a black giraffe now. Yeah, I mean, if you keep failing, if you go to a ping pong tournament and you take last place, are you in eternal conscious torment? You better believe it. That's
So
what we mean by eternal conscious torment. But a lot of times, like, I don't know. Every person has a different definition of eternal conscious torment. All you really need to know for the doctrine, for that specific doctrine to bear good fruit, is that it's bad, you know. But if eternal conscious torment, if you think if that phrase, if that if those words produce a hell that is so hot that you stop worshiping God, don't give up on God, give up on that doctrine. That's what I would say.
against the word of God.
Because some people, they hate God because of the doctrine of eternal conscious torment. Just eternal conscious torment was not very popular in the early church. It's kind of a myth, really. It's not in the Bible so much. And even if it is, you can just make all those verses figurative. Lake of fire, refiner's crucible.
Do you
Even the word hell in the Bible, it comes from 4 different words. Gehenna, Tartarus, Hades, Sheol.
really
So yeah, they mean different
think
things in different contexts.
the false
But
prophets, the false messiahs, the evil people, and Satan?
not to mention, I could just pray you out of hell. 2 Maccabees 12:46, it is a good and wholesome thought to pray for the dead that they may be loosed from sins. Catholics certainly believe that. Matthew 19:26, with God all things are possible. Jeremiah 32:27, is there anything God cannot do? I heard NDE one time. This girl, she went to hell, and there was like this different dimension. It's like, and then she ended up getting prayed out by a cat. It was like a cat goddess, and it was like a Persian cat. And the cat's like, "What's up? I got you. Like some random weird cat prayed her out. Anyways, it was a pretty wild trip. She was on drugs, so.
Are going to just do things that are outside of the Bible. That's why they're all so good at deceiving. I also want to point out every single Christian that has ever
Again,
said,
hard mode is hard mode
do
because it's
not
hard
test
mode.
God. Or Jesus himself when he told the devil that. The amount of inconsistency and contradictions here is mind-blowing.
Which is why you have to have infinite depth. More righteousness, more holiness, more knowledge, then you can understand. Notice how this guy, as he's condemning the Bible, look at his hands. Do you know what this is? Satan, 666. He's got the hand here, especially when it's doubled like this. He's like, I hate the Bible, tremendous, believe me. It's like wicked, this guy.
Completely
Wicked.
baffling. Utterly insane. I just want to go on about this point because it's
Utterly
so
insane,
stark,
yeah.
but I'm going to let it go. I think I've made my case here for that. I do have a few other suggestions from the God of the universe, the perfect creator and knower of everything, who supposedly cares about all of us and wants none to perish, about some other things we might do to make sure we don't get deceived. Ephesians 6:11.
Yeah, so that's another myth that God knows everything. That's not true. Like I said earlier in the video, he holds to dynamic omniscience, which I hold to dynamic omniscience, which is God's active and complete knowledge, based in a temporally present perception of reality, accounting for the epistemic categories of knowledge in light of its cognate expressions. While it's true that there's an infinite amount of things that God knows, there's also an infinite amount of things that God doesn't know. Isn't that exciting? And that's any good Christian.
So you can take stand against
God's growing. He's learning.
schemes.
This is good.
Yeah, that'll help.
There's more books in the library of God's mind. Like, for example, if for those of you who are like, what? Ooh. Okay, let me ask you this: could God right now ask himself a question that he's never asked himself before? If you say no, you're in big trouble. If you say yes, now how do you answer it? How long should we spend thinking about how to answer it? What are the 15 best ways to answer it? And then could God learn from himself that way? And if the answer is yes, then he could do it over and over again forever. So he's a lot closer to infinite than he is to maximum. And when people limit God by saying, oh, he knows everything, you're kind of just missing it, really. And it's not cool. It's not creative. It's not fun. It's dumb. And by the way, even if God did know everything, which he doesn't, do you think God would be powerful enough to be able to snap his fingers and then not know everything because it's more fun? Absolutely. So
What do
he either knows everything and then snapped his fingers, or he doesn't know everything. Either way,
we have? We have
he doesn't
the
know
helmet
everything.
of
So you can shut up the
salvation.
flying fox,
Okay.
or you could put the flying fox into a box, throw the
Salvation
box into the ocean, and then throw the key. Well, give the key to someone else in Canada.
as in
That
being
would be my
saved.
advice,
Didn't
at
we
least.
just hear that even the elect could be deceived? So I'm not sure what the helmet of salvation is going to do. The belt of truth. Yeah, that's what we're.
I don't like this guy's attitude, man. He's like, hey, man. He's like, I haven't even read all the books on my bookshelf. By the way, there's a really small bookshelf. If you're gonna do the bookshelf thing, why do you have barely any books back there? He hasn't even read. I don't even think he's read all those books in the background. But even if he has, it's not that many books, and he's trusting himself here. I mean, really, he's just venting. He's mind shifting. He doesn't know. He doesn't really know anything.
Fine.
So.
Trying to
So he's just venting here. Imagine thinking that you understand the Bible when the amount of books in the background. That's all the books he's ever read. The only reason why someone has a bookshelf back there is to show people how many books they've read, and that's
true.
not very
How do
many.
I just put on the belt of truth to protect myself from being able to discern what is truth and what is not? The shoes of the gospel of peace, not helpful. The sword of the spirit. You mean the spirit that we're supposed to test because so many other spirits can deceive? The shield of faith. Oh, I'll just guess. I'll just assume that I'm right. After all, that's what Hebrews says faith is: the assurance of things hoped for, the breastplate of righteousness.
Wow.
What does any of this mean? How inept is this armor at actual?
Yeah, he needs to ask ChatGPT first. Then he'll get some kind of basic understanding. These are pretty easy questions, and there's not there's a lot more depth to the Bible than there
Who
is
the
to this
false
guy
ones
reading
are,
it.
and to not be deceived. Ridiculous.
But you can see how you can make the Bible stupid by being stupid first and injecting your stupidity into the text. Titus 1:15. Unto the pure all things are pure, unto the impure all things are impure, unto the stupid all things are stupid.
Because what? Some other bad advice on
This guy
how to
wants
not
it to be
deceived.
stupid.
1 Corinthians 3:18. Let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you thinks that he is wise in this age,
There we
let him
go.
become a fool that he may become wise. Oh,
There
another
we go.
nothing verse. Another complete
A nothing verse.
of
There's
nonsense.
no depth to that
Don't
verse.
deceive
Oh,
yourself.
please.
I'm not trying to. If I'm earnestly seeking God with all my heart, like I did for 30 years, my goal was never to deceive myself. And yet, almost on a daily basis, Christians tell me I'm just deceived by the devil. I assure you, I didn't do it to myself. And then the second part is just utterly silly. If any of you thinks you're wise, you're not.
Yeah,
So
I'm
become
not buying it.
a fool.
I'm not
So that you
buying
may
that.
be wise, which I get. It's kind of a poetic and weird backwards way of saying the only thing you can know is that you know nothing. That's not helpful in this particular case. It's great as a place
I would like to know what gospel he had.
of ability, but
You know,
in terms
did he have a watered down
of-
gospel?
like
I when I pray to God and he talks to me. This guy either had a lot of sin in his life.
actually
or something.
seeing what is real and what is not.
I mean, he's obviously in a rich part of the world. He's in America or something. There's just one of those guys that's
This
deceived.
spiritual
Really.
war that is supposedly fighting over my soul to know which
It is
direction
sad,
is
though.
right, which way is up as I'm drowning here. That's so unhelpful. And then I've got a little gem of a verse for you here. This is 1 Corinthians
All right.
10:13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but when you are tempted,
Amen.
he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Now,
Yeah, so it's hard mode, possibly very hard mode, but it's not impossible mode.
this
a great
verse,
verse.
I think the purpose of it is to make sure that we can always put the blame back on the individual. This isn't God's fault. He never gave you more than you can handle, and he always provided a
Right.
way out. So if you ended up deceived, if you ended up giving in to temptation, if you ended up sinning, that was on you, bro. It's God.
At least partially, yeah. I mean,
Wha-
as a purple draft, you might have signed. It might have been in that soul contract. Hey, it's gonna be. Do you want a hard mode or very hard? Oh, I want very hard. I want top 8. You know. Oh, I want top 8. You know. iBog top 8. iBog, image bearer of God. Yeah, this guy's gonna burn up as a black black draft, maybe.
responsibility, which that just doesn't work. If the immortal being, my great enemy, Satan, knows my thoughts and my feelings, my hopes, my dreams,
doesn't.
my fears, he can
Now, very few Christians
Show
think that the devil knows your thoughts and
himself to
stuff.
me as an angel of light. If he can implant
There's actually spiritual warfare programs of other churches, and they say,
ideas in my head. I assure you, this is beyond my control. And God obviously is not giving a way out here. The way out would be to never have allowed
Obviously, he says.
this
Well, where's
powerful
that in the
being,
text?
this magnitude of power. Come on. I have a few more verses for you, and then we're going to start getting into some examples. But Jeremiah 17:9 says,
The devil is too strong.
the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Oh, it's beyond cure? You mean right after God tells us that we can always find a way out, that we can always find truth, that we're not going to have to give into sin because he is protecting us? We're going to be told that we're imbued with hearts that are by definition deceitful with no cure? It's too much.
Have you thought about curing it by asking for a new heart? Here. Let's take a look at this. Oops. Ezekiel 36:26. I wonder if there's a Bible verse on that. Let's take a look. A new heart also I will give you, and a new spirit I'll put within you, and I'll take away the stony heart and give you a new heart. Oh, this verse is a powerful promise from God, speaking of spiritual renewal and transformation. It signifies God's work in removing a hard and unresponsive heart by replacing